I think we can all agree on two things. Number one, we don't get as much hanky-panky as we would like to. And number two, we don't really know what all these numbers on an SD card mean and how they can help us to make an informed decision of buying the right SD card for our camera. With number one, I really can't help you. With number two, I can. My name is Damien Cooper and welcome to Monkey Pixels.
We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
When we were shooting in Abu Dhabi about a year ago, we actually mixed up our SD cards. Namely, we actually used our GoPro card instead of our drone card, and we didn't even notice. And the one thing that was really worrisome afterwards is that we couldn't use any of our files because the memory card wasn't fast enough. But instead of giving us an error message in the drone, it actually just started to skip frames. So all of our shots were unusable, but we didn't really notice up until we actually looked at them in the computer. So this was definitely a big wake-up call. So I obviously want to spare you from the same heartache, so I'm trying to give you the right information so you can make an informed decision of buying the right SD card for your camera. And here's a little disclaimer, this video is going to be technical, but I'm trying to cover as much ground as possible, and I hope you'll be the wiser after. So let's start with the most obvious number, and that is the capacity. And for example, you have 128 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes, and that obviously means how much you can store on said memory card. I don't really want to waste your time, you get that? Next one. And next one up is the actual name of the card. We usually refer to it as SD card, which means secure digital, but newer models have different names like SD, SDHC, and SDXC. And what do these stand for? SD means that it's basically a max capacity of 2 gigabytes. SDHC means that it's a max capacity of 32 gigabytes, and SDXC means that it's a max capacity of 2 terabytes. But other than that, this doesn't really have to concern us. Next up is the tricky number, and that is usually the number that most of the brands use to advertise their card with, and that is their maximum read speed. It usually says something about 90 megabytes per second up to 300 megabytes per second. But then again, you really have to be careful about this number because, as I've said, it indicates the maximum read speed, which is a number that is somewhat irrelevant for us when trying to shoot video or trying to capture pictures, because that number only indicates how fast can your camera or your computer read the files that are on your card. And like I already said, this number is kind of irrelevant for our case because we are looking for the write speed, and that number isn't usually advertised on the card but is hidden in the smaller other numbers on the card, which I will be getting to later. Now let's talk about the speed class, and this is usually indicates with a number between 2 and 10 written in a small c. You usually have 4 classes, it's 2, 4, 6 and 10, and that number indicates the minimum write speed. So for example, if you have a class 2 card, it has a minimum write speed of 2 megabytes, 4 has 4, 6 has 6 and 10 has obviously 10. So unless you're shooting on a hot potato, you should definitely go for a class 10 card. And since we're being thorough here, there's a Roman numeral on your SD card. It's usually a 1 or a 2, and this number refers to your bus interface. Think of it that way. If your memory card would be a freeway, it would indicate how many lanes you have. So if you have a numeral 1, it indicates that you have 1 lane, and if you have a numeral 2, then it indicates that you have 2 lanes. Because the higher speed cards actually need more space and more lanes to throughput the data. But then again, this is a fun fact, but is completely irrelevant to us, unless you're trying to impress that hot blonde with the big boobs on your cocktail party, which actually might help you with problem number 1. So go for it. I know I keep talking about irrelevant numbers, so Damien, what are the relevant numbers? I will be getting to this right now. So the most important number we are looking for in an SD card is the minimum sustainable write speed. And that means what is the minimum speed your card can handle over a longer period of time. And again, there's numbers on your card that are somewhat redundant. For example, there's this U shape that looks like a small cup that has a number in it. And usually it has a number in it between 1 and 3. And that means if there's a 1 in it, it has a minimum sustainable write speed of 10, the 2 means 20, and the 3 means 30 megabytes per second. And that number usually goes for everything, shooting pictures and just copying files over. But then you have the more specific number, and that starts with a V. And that is for video shooters. And the most typical numbers here are V30, V60 and V90. And again, as the name suggests, the V30 lets you shoot 30 megabytes per second, V60 60 megabytes per second, and V90 90 megabytes per second, sustainable as the minimum write speed your card can handle. So how do these numbers actually translate to us choosing the right SD card for our camera? So here's the thing, you probably heard about megabits and megabytes, and usually your camera indicates it in your codec that you're shooting with. For example, our EOS R shoots at 4K with a codec of 480 megabits per second. Usually when we're referring to megabytes, it's a capital M followed by a capital B, but when we're referring to megabits, it's in small letters, and that's where the difference comes in. So how do these numbers actually translate to us choosing the right SD card for our camera? All of our cameras shoot at different codecs. For example, our EOS R shoots 4K at 480 mbits per second. And don't confuse megabytes with megabits, as 1 megabyte is 8 megabits. So basically, if your camera shoots at 480 megabits, that means it shoots at 60 megabytes per second. So the minimum requirement for your SD card when you're shooting 4K at 480 megabits is 60 megabytes per second. But be careful here, because we were shooting with a V60 card on our EOS R, which in theory should actually meet the minimum requirement of 60 megabytes per second. But if you're really on the edge, it only takes like half a megabyte more, and then your camera shuts down because it can't really keep up with the write speed. And we had that issue happening to us. So for us with our EOS R when shooting in 4K, which we rarely do, but in theory if you would, you need a V90 card, because I would suggest that if you're really on the edge of your minimum requirement, go one speed class higher to be safe. Because there's nothing worse than actually being on a shoot and your SD card can't keep up with your codec. But let's take another example. And one of the most common cameras right now for video shooters is a Sony a7S II or a Sony a7 III, and they all shoot at 100 mbits per second. And knowing that we have to divide this number by 8 to get the megabytes. Hey Siri, how much is 100 divided by 8?
The answer is 12.5.
It actually means that we need an SD card with a minimum write speed of 12.5 megabytes per second. So for a Sony camera, we would actually only need a V30 card to be on the safe side. So here you can get away with a much cheaper card for your Sony camera than you would for your Canon camera when shooting a higher bit codec. And lastly, I want to give out a personal recommendation. And as you have already seen in our B-roll, we are shooting with Angelbird cards. And we're not sponsored by Angelbird, but this actually is a true story. So when we were shooting with the C200, we actually had one of our C-Fast cards fail on us after an update by Canon for the C200. And this wasn't the card's fault, but it was Canon's fault for not really supporting the card anymore because it was an old version of said card. So I posted this in a C200 Facebook group, and right after Angelbird actually contacted me and they exchanged the cards for newer ones for free without a hassle, and they were there a couple days later. So kudos for their support, and after that we never had a card fail on us. So all of our cards are now Angelbird. So when it comes to reliability, price and speed, I think Angelbird is definitely the best option for you. So I hope I could actually help you now with your problem and the mystery that is SD cards, and from now on you can make an educated decision about your SD cards, which to buy for your camera and your codec. Boy? So I hope I could actually shed a little bit of light on the mystery that is SD cards, and from now on you can make an educated decision when it comes to purchasing an SD card for your camera and your respective codec. So if you liked this video and it actually helped you, as always, give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to our channel for more, and I hope to see you on the next one.